Since you've had fibromyalgia, do you ever put off seeing the doctor, even when you know you probably shouldn't? And when you do go, you spend days stressed beforehand, rehearsing what you want to say, worried you'll be dismissed, and you still walk out thinking, well, that came out wrong. If that's you, there is nothing wrong with you for feeling that way. After decades of fibro and a lot of medical appointments, I felt exactly the same way, until I learned a few things that made it calmer and a lot kinder on myself. Let me start with the first one and the most important lesson we need to learn. When you've been dismissed before, when you've heard it's just your fibro one too many times, staying home and telling yourself it's probably nothing feels safer. I completely understand that. I did it for years. For example, for a while I noticed my balance wasn't quite right. I was a bit unsteady on my feet, and I told myself it was my age, or fatigue, or my fibro. Anything really, rather than getting it looked at. Then I had a fall and broke my wrist, and while I was being treated, they happened to do a routine bone scan. And that's how I found out that I had osteoporosis. And that wobbly feeling that I was having was a sign of that condition. But here's the thing I took from that. It wasn't a failing on my part. It's that fibromyalgia can sit alongside other conditions. And it's so easy to put every new symptom down to fibro when sometimes it's something separate that deserves its own attention. Now, by saying this, I'm not trying to worry you that you will get another serious condition like I did. Please don't worry about that. But I am saying that we do need to keep an eye on things because people with fibromyalgia are actually more prone to other long-term conditions. We don't necessarily have to get more conditions, but we can do. That doesn't mean living in fear. It simply means our health deserves more attention, not less. And our checkups matter more than most people's. The reason so many of us avoid them isn't laziness or denial, it's that we're afraid we won't be believed. And that fear is real. But you deserve to be taken seriously. And going to the doctor is doing exactly the right thing for yourself. So the first lesson is, we already manage a complex condition. Our health deserves more attention, not less. And I know if appointments already feel hard, going more often can sound like the last thing you want to do. So everything I share next is about making it easier, so it doesn't have to cost you so much. Starting with how to walk in feeling clear about what you need so the appointment works for you instead of running away from you. We find appointments difficult because it's not just nerves from our previous experiences, it's pain, fatigue and brain fog. And on top of that, before you even sat down, your nervous system can already be on high alert. So if you get emotional or your mind goes blank or it comes out differently from what you meant, that is a stress response. And it's a completely natural reaction to the thoughts we've had on the way to the doctors. This is going to go wrong. I've been here before. So what I want to be really clear about is that there's nothing wrong with that response. But here's the part that surprised me. You don't have to force yourself to think differently or talk yourself out of the fear and just be positive. What actually calms that response is knowing that you have a plan. When you walk in with a method, and I'm going to give you mine in a moment, the stress settles on its own and the confidence comes naturally after that. I'll give you an honest example of what happens without one. So a while ago, I was getting more and more symptoms. This is years ago now. And I thought, no single doctor has seen the full picture here. And my fear of something being seriously wrong with me was really ramped up. I was so anxious about my health. So I booked an appointment and I took my husband and I brought a long list. We went through everything. The doctor asked a few questions and he was running well over time and getting a bit restless. And then he said he thought it was all down to my mental health. And then he just left it there. I stared at him. And then I got up and walked out and burst into tears in the corridor. My husband didn't know what to say. We were both completely floored. Now, here's what's interesting. He was actually right. I was in therapy at the time, and my therapist later explained that I'd developed depression while facing some very difficult things in our sessions. But the way it was handled by the doctor left me feeling dismissed and ashamed, frankly. And I want you to notice something. I had done nothing wrong in that situation by getting emotional. The appointment didn't go badly because of my feelings. It went badly because no space was made for those feelings. Mental health issues are a physical health problem that doctors should deal with. What changed everything for me was getting clear afterwards. I talked it through with my therapist, and the next day I rang the surgery. I was asked my name and date of birth, what they could help me with, and I simply said, I need to speak to a GP about my mental health. The moment I said that, the receptionist's tone softened. Oh, okay. Would you like a face-to-face or phone appointment? I took the phone appointment. I couldn't bear walking into that surgery again. And a little while later, when the doctor called, I knew exactly what I wanted to say. He gently asked me what's going on, and I said, I'm struggling with my mental health, and now I'm getting physical symptoms as well, as I told the doctor yesterday. I'm in therapy, and my therapist said I have depression and recommended a particular medication. He asked which one. He agreed that was the best and had very few side effects, and said he would start me on a low dose and send the prescription straight to the pharmacy. This appointment was the difference of night and day from my previous visit. I saw then that being clear about what I was there for and clear about the outcome I wanted worked brilliantly. Not only did I get exactly what I needed, but I also had no stress around it. This is what the first doctor should have done. Said it was my mental health and suggested I speak to my therapist or discussed meds or other treatments. So, from now on, I use that preparation method and I go to the doctors confidently when I need to. So here's the method. First, get clear on what you're going to the doctor about. Sometimes it's not just one issue. That isn't realistic for us. And honestly, most people save things up before we go to the doctors. It's about how to frame it. If you have had several new symptoms, you can simply say, I've had some new symptoms and I've come to see if there's anything that needs checking further. Or if it's harder to pin down for you, you can say, I've been feeling worse than usual and I'm not sure if this is a flare or something we need to explore. And then list the ways it's got worse. In this way, you're acknowledging our fibro and that what we've come in for is unusual and different. So they need to pay attention to it. And because you've acknowledged your fibro, they know that that's on the table as well. And they can reassure you that it is or it isn't. Now, the second step is know the outcome that you'd like. Would you like a check, a test, a referral, a plan, or just some reassurance? And if you don't get it, you're allowed to ask. Something as simple as, would it be worth a blood test to check these symptoms out? They'll explain why it would or wouldn't help, and you can decide a plan together from then on. That's it. You're not performing and you're not getting it perfect. You're just walking in with clarity. And the clarity is what keeps you grounded and stops the doctor dismissing you. And if you still get emotional along the way, that is completely allowed. Getting clear isn't about hiding our feelings. It's just a tool that helps us be heard. So lesson 2 is to get clear on what you're seeing the doctor about and about the outcome you want. And if you'd like help working out what's normal for you versus what's actually changed, I've made a free guide you can download. It helps you get to know your own fibromyalgia so you can spot changes sooner. And it includes some quick ways to settle your nervous system when the anxiety spikes. It's linked in the description below this video. Now, remember, when you go to see the doctor, you're already unwell. So if you get overwhelmed, forget things, or struggle to find your words, that's completely understandable. When we're unwell, we feel it more than most. Even a cold or a virus hits harder when you've got fibro already. And that can make it hard to communicate. And that's okay. It isn't weakness, and there's nothing to feel guilty about. I used to think that I should manage appointments on my own. Then I developed long COVID and became so frail that my husband had to come with me. I couldn't even manage to walk from the car. And I noticed something that I didn't expect. With him beside me, I was calmer. I felt grounded. If I got overwhelmed, I could pause, breathe, even hold his hand. And if I forgot something, he could gently remind me of what we'd agreed mattered most for the appointment. And I felt more listened to, simply having another person in the room. To be honest, when there is a second person with you, you do sometimes get treated, how shall I say, a little more carefully. It shouldn't make a difference, but it can. And there's no harm in letting that work in your favour. So the third lesson is you don't have to go it alone. Bring someone, a partner, a friend, a family member, or even a professional advocate. An advocate is someone whose job it is to speak up on your behalf and make sure you're heard and understood. Some are available free through charities or health services, and some you can arrange privately. Whoever you bring, they can just sit beside you to give you a little bit of confidence, or if you need to, you can give them one small job, which could be, for example, help me remember my 3 points, or step in if I get overwhelmed or flustered. Their role is simply to help you be heard and to speak for you if you can't in the moment. These days, I don't always need that, but for anything bigger or if I feel particularly brain foggy, I still ask my husband to come along because he helps me to remember what was said in the appointment, because half the time I forget what I was told. This isn't a weakness, it's a strategy. Use it. And while we're talking about it, if doctor anxiety or health anxiety is a really big ongoing thing for you, please know it can be worked through. See a counsellor or a therapist to help you with that. It is something that can be overcome. So, those are the 3 things I wish I'd known before. 1, our checkups matter more, not less. Our health is more important because we're already managing a complex condition. 2, go in with clarity on your concern and a clear outcome in mind. And 3, bring support, because when you live with a long-term condition, that extra help isn't a luxury. It's something you're allowed to lean on. If this helped and you'd like to go deeper into keeping your nervous system calm and out of that constant high alert, watch this video next. In that, I'll walk you through my own approach for staying steady and why it matters so much when you're living with fibromyalgia. Until next time, take care of yourself and be well.